We have a lot of fond memories, and especially being in Brooklyn, New York City, the mecca of college basketball. This is going to be a great environment and another memorable experience for our players.
All right, at this time, if you have questions, just raise your hand. We'll get a microphone to you. We'll start right here in front of us, row 3.
Jamal Murphy, Bill Roden on Sports. Coach, I mean, your team, it seems like this year they got up for the really big games, played well, played the best in the biggest of games, and struggled a little bit with some lesser competition. Was that frustrating for you? Or do you do you look at it positively in terms of we can play with anybody? How do you feel about that?
I tend to look at everything, the glass is half full, but there have been times when we've been frustrated at our attention to detail when we played teams that we were supposed to beat, or maybe we were the prohibitive favorite. So we were battling human nature through most of the season, but overall, the big moments, the body of work, certainly overshadows those bumps in the road, and those are part of our experiences, which make us us. And we're very, very excited to be where we are. To earn an at-large bid is extremely difficult, and for us, you play the schedule and the games we play. So a testament and tribute to our guys' longevity and consistency, because it's been a longer season than last, at least it seems.
We'll stay on this side. Go ahead in the last row.
Good morning, Dusty. Ralph Russo from the Associated Press. There's so much chatter about you and what is next for you. How do you handle that coming into your biggest games of the season? Do you tell your agent, hey, just keep that away from me? Do you address it with your team because you have kids who are online and they see this stuff? How do you handle all the speculation and chatter that doesn't have anything to do with this game?
First and foremost, this is typical. I think a lot of coaches face this. It's not out of the ordinary. It's just happening over a longer period now because jobs come open during the season. So this began probably a month or so ago. It happened last year, earlier in the season. As soon as we had success, our players were coming to me saying that my coach said you're not going to be here next year. My mom said she heard this from the neighbors, from the mailman's neighbor, that you're going to be coaching here. And every time, we just kind of had a laugh about it and said, let's focus on what's important. And it's the same thing. I try not to get caught up in it, but as a college basketball coach, I talk to a lot of people. I talk to coaches, I talk to recruits, I talk to our signees. And so it comes up a lot. It is distracting, but our job is to compartmentalize what we're supposed to be doing. But I'll also add on that Instagram's distracting, Twitter's distracting, having your kids with you, watching movies while you're trying to watch film is distracting. So we all have a lot of distractions. We all have a job to do, and that's prepare to play our best against Northwestern.
All right, we'll come across on the aisle there. Go ahead, Adam.
Hey, Dusty, Adam Zagoria, how you doing?
Good.
Nick Boyd, kind of got local connections here. Can you just talk about what he's brought to the team, and also just in this transfer portal era, how unique and rare it is that he and the other guys all stayed and came back, and I'm sure there were other teams trying to poach them.
First of all, yeah, it's obviously unique for a group to stay together like ours did, and a big reason why is because their love for each other. We've built something special together, and they all are major stakeholders in FAU basketball now. Nick's brought a lot to the table from a tangible and, more importantly, intangible standpoint. His energy is infectious. He brings a love of the game and work every single day, 365 days a year. I wish he didn't work quite as much. Sometimes we encourage him not to come to the gym 3 times a day. But his work ethic, his determination has been a model for a lot of younger players in our program. And like everyone else on our roster, he's given up a lot for the group. And, that's not always common. I said it a lot last year. And he continues to share, to sacrifice, but his value to our team is even bigger than his numbers and his minutes played or whatnot. Not much. We talk about it. We've always been open and honest with all that stuff, but it's the same thing where this isn't new anymore. Last year it was new, so when it come up, it was something that felt like it needed to be addressed. This year, it's the same chatter that we've had really for over a year now, and it's not it's not just us; it's everyone. So we're all dealing with the same things. But our guys handle it well. They've been up for many games, and I think they've been real professionals about all that stuff.
Stay here in front, right in here in row 1.
Hey, Coach. WNUR Sports, Perry Kitai. Looking at the game tomorrow itself and some of the strategy, there have been some questions about your defense this year, especially when your defense was your identity. Last year, in your last game against Temple, specifically in the zone defense, the perimeter shooting was not defended probably as well as you would have liked. How does your strategy change tomorrow against a Northwestern team that spreads the floor and plays on the perimeter, especially with a guy like Boo Buie who can pull up from so deep?
We've actually been surprised this year at how porous our defense has been at times. Lately, we haven't shot the ball well, and we've given up a high percentage from the three-point line while also still being in those games till the last possession. So at one side, as I said earlier, I look at the positive first. Our upside is still extremely high. But we have to find ways that when we're not shooting well to maintain the same defensive edge. And to be honest, our 2 games in Fort Worth for the conference tournament, North Texas, for example, for about 15 to 18 minutes, we looked like we were when we were at our best defensively. And for whatever reason, we weren't able to sustain that effort and hunger, whatever the case. I'm optimistic that in this environment, we understand the ramifications of taking one possession off, especially when you're looking at the other team and they have a player like Boo Buie. And if he crosses half court and he's got space, then he has a great chance of making it. And if you try to defend him with one player, he has a great chance of making it. So we obviously have to make shots to be at our best, but we need to clean up a few things and not let these teams get a few easy, comfortable looks early, get the rhythm, and then the tougher shots start going in. And that's what's happened lately. If you go back and look at the Temple game, their first two threes were off of our turnovers that led to wide open shots, and therefore then they get going and find their groove.
All right, we'll go across the room in the last row. Go ahead. Jesse, just raise your hand so we can see. Go ahead.
Jesse Doherty from the Washington Post. It seemed like last spring, to keep your group together, there was a lot of community support from an NIL perspective. How tough can it be to ask for that kind of sort of rush of support spring after spring? And do you worry at all about kind of fatigue with, donors and folks maybe that support your players just because the way the NIL market works now, kind of asking fans to kind of foot the bill to some degree?
I think everyone's concerned with donor fatigue and whatnot. We approach everything with the idea that we have to be working continuously for something that's down the line. And me by nature, I'm a big security person. So we've been working since this team came back for next year to keep people engaged, to give access, to find different revenue streams to help our current players. And so, do we worry? Yes. Should we spend time worrying? Probably not, because we are going to work hard and we're going to continue to make our community, even those who didn't attend FAU, feel a part of our program. And like I said, with our players, to be stakeholders in it. So we like the fact that we have a big upside in that facet. But there's going to be work to do after this season as well.
We'll go here in the front, and then we'll go to the back, this side.
Iggy Dowling, Inside NU. You mentioned that North Texas game. You played them 3 times, and you've won every time. They're a slow-paced team. They shoot a lot of threes, play through their guards, kind of like Northwestern. What have you learned from that, playing a slow-paced game, about playing your game even if the pace is kind of slow and just playing your game on offense and defense?
Well, that was the first thing that we said to the team, that just think North Texas. When we're getting ready to play a team that is just a different version of the Mean Green. And they do a lot of the same things. They have dangerous guards who can make shots from different spots and different angles. They have really good one-on-one players. And I don't think you'd have to look too much further than Ken Palm to see that our Achilles heel defensively is we play one-on-one a lot. We don't overhelp, and therefore we've had to make some adjustments with teams like North Texas. So we have a lot of different curveballs we can throw. It's just a matter of not throwing too many hanging curves or having a calculated risk in what we want to do. But we're going to have to give those guys different looks. And like I said, if you have 2 or 3 elite one-on-one players in your starting 5, then you're a tough cover.
We're going to go in the back on the aisle. Go ahead, and then we'll come down here to the front of this aisle. Go ahead.
Alex Schiffer, good to see you, Dusty.
See ya.
You look at the smaller schools, and I ask this knowing you guys obviously changed conferences up before the season, but you look at the smaller schools that had Final Four run, Loyola, George Mason, FGCU, like none of them, FGCU was obviously earlier than that, but none of them were able to make the tournament the following year. Just why do you think you guys have been a rare exception in the smaller school that had the deep run, able to run it back the following year?
Because of our upside. When we're at our best, we're capable of beating anyone in the country, and over the course of 30 games or whatever, you're going to have nights when you're not at your best. Last year, we found ways to win those games when we weren't at our best, but the other teams didn't have the same edge to them on those nights because we weren't, they didn't have as many fans, they didn't have the attention going into the game, they didn't have it circled. So I do think that those moments mattered this year. But we were, and another thing, because of the way our guys play, I do think they're fun to watch, and they play a style that's easy on the eyes. Therefore, we were able to get those games because of the television networks. They were able to get great matchups, get us neutral site games against Power Fives, and we took advantage of those. And so I think that's probably the biggest reason. But we talk with our group every time we lost a game. It was as if we had a letdown, our season was ruined, and we constantly reminded them of those teams. And there's a reason we're still talking about the back-to-back Gators and the New England Patriots. It's that rare to duplicate the kind of success you had the year prior.
Down here, other side of the aisle, down here in row one.
Jim Saturday, FAU Owl's Nest. Coach, there are different kinds of players, but has it been instructive for you at all to look at what Northwestern, how they handled Purdue's ball screen game with Zach Edey, to get any kind of insight as to what you can expect with Vlad tomorrow?
We're built different than Purdue. Absolutely. We watched that game, and we took a few nuggets from it. The hardest part, most difficult part of the NCAA tournament is finding ways to take advantage of your I guess, matchups or whatnot, while also not straying away from what you do. We have watched that. We've watched several games to try to guess what they're going to do. And so Purdue did some unique things against them, but it's hard for us because Golden, he's tall like Edey, but they have very, very different games, and we have very different styles of play.
We'll stay on the aisle in row three.
Hey, Coach, good to see you. When we watched the Selection Sunday video in the locker room, I couldn't help but notice, like, you were the biggest kid of the bunch, almost jumping up with excitement. I was just talking to the players about they see you as sort of a wise owl combined with being someone they can really relate to and who helps them just stay where they need to be heading into games. Your relationship with them, can you describe it for me? That's how they described it.
Oh, that's a tricky question. These guys, man, they last year was the best group I've ever been a part of. And this year we've had a lot of bumps in the road, and it's the second best group I've ever been a part of. But when you sit there and you watch Selection Sunday, you think back of, man, you're on a 29-win team at Louisiana Tech. You just won a regular season conference championship. You get tripped up. And some years you don't even watch the tournament because you just feel hopeless. And to see those guys get knocked out against Temple and then to hear their name called as an at-large, and you just think back all those years you had our UAB teams that were good and went to the NIT and whatnot, and you just sit there and you think, and you always leave, and you're so disappointed because you want the players to experience March Madness, and you realize that you could go 5 years in a row and then coach another 20 and never go. It's that difficult. It's that exclusive. So it was a moment for me. There's certain moments of each year that I remember like it's yesterday, the feeling that you had in that moment in the locker room where I personally looked at that group of people and said, you know, you guys did something bigger than you even realize because of how many years I've been doing this and just was left out so many times because of whatever. I mean, because we didn't get an opportunity to play the games that this team got a chance to play. And fortunately for us, our guys took advantage of those games, and we played our best at the most important times. And so, yeah, that was I don't get excited very often. So, and I didn't know that was going to be on CBS and the local news and all that. But it was a moment for me And also, I'd woke up Sunday morning sleep deprived and had seen that we were sliding despite no games being played. And I thought maybe there's a software update that's reconfigured all these metrics and it's dropping us back. So I did get a little paranoid when I saw us sliding without games being played. That's always a concern.
We'll take one more question for Coach if there is one. Okay. Coach, appreciate you taking the time.
Thank you, guys.